In our previous classes, we've studied the organs of speech and how they behave in the production of speech sounds. We've analyzed some sounds, and we've noticed that in the production of some sounds, our vocal cords vibrate, while in the production of other sounds, the vocal cords don't vibrate. So, we should remember that some sounds are produced with vibration of the vocal cords and some sounds are not. Today we are going to study the phonological process of assimilation. Specifically, we're going to study the case of established progressive assimilation of voice. First of all, we are going to read this passage and listen to it. While you listen to it, please pay attention to the sounds, actually to the letters highlighted in red. Pay attention to the sounds, to how these letters are pronounced.
23.2. There's no life on the town's streets anymore. Nobody goes there. Nobody stops and talks while they're shopping. The shops have all closed. There used to be a butcher's, a greengrocer's, a chemist's, a newsagent's, clothes shops, lots of small cafes, all gone. Now, everybody drives to the big shopping centres outside town.
Okay, you heard there's no life on the town's streets anymore. There's no life on the town's streets anymore. There's. That apostrophe S in spelling corresponds to the verb to be is. And we say there's. That's the weakest form of the verb to be. And we pronounce it there's. No life on the town's streets. That apostrophe S in spelling correspond to the genitive case or possessive case. We say town, towns, streets. That letter actually S is pronounced S, streets. So, we can say that in this case, this is the realization of the weakest form of the verb to be. In towns, we say that this is the realization of the possessive case morpheme. And in streets, we say that this is the realization of the plural morpheme. Nobody goes there, goes. Grammatically speaking, this is the realization of the third person singular morpheme. We say goes. Nobody stops. This is the realization of the third person singular morpheme too. And we say stops. Here we say goes, but here we say stops. And talks. This is the realization of the third person singular morpheme too. Talk, talks. While they are shopping, the shops. This is the realization of the plural morpheme, which is realized as the sound s, shop, shops. Let's go back to streets. Street is the singular form and the plural is streets. And this is shops. Good. The shops have all closed. There used to be a butcher's. This is a butcher's shop, right? A butcher's. So this is the realization of the genitive case, of the genitive morpheme. Butcher, butchers. A greengrocer's. a chemist's. So greengrocers, voiced, but we say chemists, voiceless. These are all cases of the genitive morpheme. A newsagent's genitive morpheme too. Clothes shops, this is the realization of the plural morpheme. Lots of small cafes, lots, again the plural morpheme. Cafes, plural morpheme. Everybody drives, the realization of their third person singular morpheme. Big shopping centers, plural morpheme. So, we have cases of weak forms of the verb to be, as in thus, instead of there is, we say thus. We have cases of plural morpheme, as in streets, shops, lots, cafes, centers. We have cases of third person singular morphemes, as in goes, stops, talks, drives. And of course the genitive morpheme, as in towns, butchers, greengrocers, chemists, newsagents. Right, what's going on here? This is a process. This is a phonological process. Remember, 2 weeks ago we said that phonology moves a step forward towards language and analyzes how sounds function in a particular language. In this case, phonology is telling us how certain morphemes are realized in English. And that's why we have to study how the third person singular morpheme is realized. For example, goes, stops, talks. We have to study how the genitive morpheme is realized in English. Towns, butchers, greengrocers, chemists, newsagents. We have to study how the plural morpheme is realized. For example, streets, shops, lots, centers. And we have to study how the weak forms of the verb to be, auxiliary verb or main verb, and the auxiliary verb has are pronounced too in English. So, this is a phonological process called assimilation. Assimilation, because two sounds become similar, and we'll see why.
23.
Due to economy of effort, all sounds are affected by their environment to some extent. This economy of effort may occur at the vocal cords or vocal bands, or result from the accommodation between two articulations. This phonological process is known as assimilation. Now, most nouns add an orthographic s or es to make the plural form. Book, books. Pay attention to the spelling. We just have an s there in spelling. Dog, dogs. We have an s in spelling. Letter s. Church, churches. Right? es in spelling. However, the pronunciation of the plural morpheme varies according to the noun to which it's added. So, in spelling, we see here books, we see an S, and in dogs, we also see an S. But when we pronounce it, that letter is pronounced differently. Why am I saying this? Because the plural morpheme must agree in voicing with the last sound of the noun. In the case of book, k, let's pay attention to the last sound. K, k. If we touch our throat, k, we can't perceive any vibration of the vocal cords, so k is voiceless. That means that the plural morpheme is going to be realized as a voiceless sound too. S, book, books. So k is voiceless and s is voiceless too. So two sounds become similar in voicing, in this case, lack of voice, for economy of effort, because it's easier for us to pronounce a voiceless sound if the previous sound is voiceless too. While in dog, in spelling, we just see the letter S, but in pronunciation, the plural is dogs. Why? Because the last sound of the singular noun, g, 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 if you touch your throat, g, there is vibration of the vocal cords, so this sound is voiced. For economy of effort, we have to pronounce another voiced sound, z. This is assimilation. So here we are talking about a case of assimilation, established because it's obligatory, it's not optional, progressive. Why? Because one sound is affecting the following one. In this case, the voiceless sound k is affecting the next one. Because k is voiceless, the next has to be voiceless. So it's a case of established, progressive, assimilation, because two sounds are similar, voiceless, voiceless, or voiced, voiced. Assimilation of voice, because it has to do with the state of the glottis.